I am standing in for Ellen. She had another commitment that she's attending to. However, given the opportunity for a soapbox, I can't resist. Unfortunately, there are 7 positions still remaining open on this ballot. 7 positions with nobody signed up for them. These range from trustees of the trust fund, to the budget committee, to planning board. Some very important roles in our town that are going unfulfilled. If you want to wonder why our taxes go up, well, if we have to start hiring people to do these volunteer positions, they'll keep going up. So I strongly urge everybody to get involved. This whole democracy thing only works if people participate. So, all right, done my rant. My name is Phil Coombs, and I will be your moderator for this evening. This evening's festivities will begin with the uncontested races. We'll allow each candidate who is in an uncontested race, should they so choose, to come up to the stand microphone and make a 2-minute presentation, if they choose. After that, we will allow the candidates in the contested races to do a 2-minute introduction, and then we will have a question and answer period. As luck would have it, we have 2 questions for the school budget committee and 2 questions for the select board candidates. For the question and answer, each candidate will be given a 1-minute response. And in order to keep time of this, we have a 30-second warning and a time's up warning. Or do we want that to be the 10-second warning and I'll tell them when their time's up? What do you think? Any preference?
You're the moderator.
You're the moderator.
Okay. Reggie dead. It's over.
10 seconds.
Okay. Any questions? All right. At this time, I invite any of the non-contested candidates to step to the microphone and introduce themselves and have a 2-minute conversation of their choosing. And we have Chris Bashaw, who is the 1-year position for select board.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Bashaw. I am currently one of your selectmen. However, I am not running for re-election as I was appointed to this position when Phil had to vacate the selectman seat to take up his new position in town. A little bit about me. I've lived in Kingston for over 15 years. My wife grew up in town. She owns a family business that employs a few dozen folks in town. And we moved here when we wanted to start our family. I have 3 school-age children that are currently in the Sanborn Regional School District. I'm a military veteran. I served in the 75th Ranger Regiment honorably. I appreciate my military time and service. It kind of set me up for a lot of the things in the future. My wife and I have been very involved in the community of Kingston since we've lived here, everything from coaching different types of sports, volunteering on boards, the Bakey Boosters Club. My wife currently sits on the school board for SAU 17. Prior to that, she also served on the budget committee. I served as a member of the Kingston Planning Board for approximately 7 years, and then I took up, when the position became vacant for the selectman seat, I offered up my resume and I was appointed by the board to fill the remainder of that seat for the rest of this year. My professional background is I've been in law enforcement for about 17 years. I'm currently the major at the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office. I help prepare, implement, and oversee an over $8 million budget there and approximately 100 employees. I'm in charge of the 5 divisions within the county, and including operating a regional dispatch center, our court services division, our patrol warrants divisions, for the sheriff's office, all the deputies, bailiffs you see at the Superior Courthouse, things of those nature. But I do have a lot of experience. I deal with HR-related items. I deal with finances and budgeting. And like I said, I deal with all the overall operations that are mandated by the sheriff for me to take care of for the sheriff's office. I've enjoyed continuing. I enjoy working for the town of Kingston, helping out wherever I can, and I look forward to serving again as a selectman. But I will say I almost kind of wish I was opposed, because I wish there was a little bit more involvement in people wanting to be involved in these positions. Thank you.
What power do you have?
Next we have Dawn Dutton, who will be running for school board at large.
Hi, my name is Dawn Dutton. I am currently finishing out my third year as your Kingston representative on the school board. This past year and the year prior, I've been school board chair. It is not easy. It's a lot of work. We put in a lot of time, but it is so worth it. We have so many good things going on right now, and I just couldn't walk away. We're really in the thick of it. We're working on curriculum. We're working on making sure there's accountability. We're working on making sure that everyone from our low-level learners, our middle-level learners, and our high-level learners are all taken care of. They're all being taught to. So we have a lot of things that we're really working so hard, and I just can't walk away yet. I can't, I have to see it through. I have 3 children, currently have 2 of them in the school. One of them has graduated. I have 5 nieces and nephews also in the school district. So I have a vested interest here for the next 13 years, because my youngest nephew is 4 years old, so you may see me again in another 3, who knows. I'm super passionate about this. I grew up in Newton. I've owned a home in Kingston for 14 years, lived there a lot longer because we made the huge trek from Newton all the way to Kingston my senior year in high school. So I have a huge passion. I have a ton of Sanborn pride, and I just really hope that what I've done over the past 3 years, people appreciate and respect, and if you don't, I'd love to talk to you about it so we can have good conversation, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Jeremiah Knoll.
Thank you, sir.
And he will be running for school board from Kingston.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeremiah Noltz. I'm probably the newest resident in the room here to Kingston, so I recognize a few of you from interactions in the town hall and interactions in the school and different places, but I'm probably the newest face here. We moved here roughly a year ago, and I know no better way to make a positive change than to get involved in the community. And so right off the bat when we moved here, I was just telling Chris earlier, we moved here, we were unpacking our house, and we found out that our boys' soccer coach, or they didn't have a soccer coach for their team. And so they said, if nobody coaches this team, the boys don't have a team. So good luck. And so my wife and I said, well, I guess we're coaching soccer this year, right? So we're unpacking the boxes and coaching soccer. And so here we are. I started attending the school board meetings right off the bat. There's nothing more important to our family than making sure that our kids get a good, solid education. I have 2 boys, one at the Memorial School, one at the middle school. And I really, really appreciate and enjoy the direction that the school board is going. And I felt like I could be an addition and an add to that team. And so here we are running. My professional background, I'm a military officer. I'm a career military person. I've been active duty 3 different services. Now I'm in the Guard here in New Hampshire. So 22 years total. And I've done a lot of different jobs over that time period. Currently serving as a legislative liaison officer. And basically what that means is I interface between the Department of Defense and our legislatures, both stateside as well as at the federal level. I look forward to serving. Like Phil said earlier, we've got vacant seats, and I really found it interesting that I'm unopposed. I'm a brand new here, and I thought there would definitely be some more folks interested. So as a new person here, I'd like to encourage people that have lived here longer and new folks to get involved as well. So I look forward to running and making a difference in the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Shaw Tilton, who will be running for the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Good evening. So I'm running for the zoning board. I've served on a few committees in town. I've served on the budget committee for the past 2 years, and I've served on the trustee of the trust fund the past 2 years as well, choosing not to run for those positions, but running for the zoning board. I've also served on the Conservation Commission since 2019 and been the treasurer there since joining that. So I think the ZBA and the Conservation Commission work well together in terms of background and me understanding the policies, so I think it could be a good fit for me. This past year felt like a lot of committees, so that's why I'm trying to just do 2 this year. So just a background, we moved here in 2019 and then again, I joined the Conservation Commission. I served, let's see, I'm a social worker. I have a private practice, so work with individuals, both adults and children, or adolescents rather, in private practice. And I served in the New Hampshire Guard for 6 years. So that's it.
Okay, next up we have Rick Russman, who will be running for the Budget Committee.
Hi, I'm Rick Russman, and I'm one of the oldest residents here, and I'm a recovering lawyer, and don't hold that against me though. My son went to Sanborn, and he's a lawyer in Exeter. That's a plug. And then I've been in an elected position on a number of different committees and so on for the past 55 years, and so I really love Kingston, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't. So appreciate your vote of confidence, and thanks.
Okay, next up we have Anne-Marie Roth, also running for Budget Committee for the 3-year position.
Yes, I've been on the Budget Committee now for 5 years. It's very interesting. I've helped to get the fire and the police department up to speed on their income, which was great. Because we kept losing them. So now we're starting to retain. I've been in Kingston now for 11 years, Air Force vet, and just enjoy working with the town.
Thank you. Next up, we have Tammy Baby running for Town Clerk Tax Collector.
Yes, I am. I have lived in Kingston for 21 years. Worked for the town for almost 20 years. I was at the PD for 14 years first, before coming here to be the Town Clerk Tax Collector. Love my job. Anyone else wants to run, feel free. Wish more people would be involved. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Lynn Bartlett-Merrill for Planning Board, a 3-year position.
I'm Lynn Bartlett-Merrill. I think I've got Rick beat for living here in town. Next month, it'll be 70 years. I've served on a number of committees, starting at the age of 22, chairing the Recreation Commission, and have served the town in many capacities since then. Served the last 6 years on the Planning Board, currently chair. And in my capacity on the Planning Board, I pledge to go in and look at every application with an open mind, and to vote not according to my opinion, but to the rules and regulations of the town of Kingston. Ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Next up, we have Steve Padfield, who will be running for the 2-year position for Planning Board.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Padfield. I moved here in 2014 when my wife and I bought Memories Ice Cream. We enjoy Memories and taking care of the town. I've been on the Planning Board since 2018, most of it as an alternate, but about 6 or 8 months ago I became full-time. My background is I've been a gas station and convenience store owner since I was 20. I did that for 36 years, and then in 2014 we bought Memories and moved out here. And I like it out here. I like it. It's really nice out here, and I hear that from a lot of people. When I say, oh, I'm from Kingston, oh, it's such a nice town. And it is. It really is. We like it here. I enjoy being on the planning board and listening to what's going on. And like Lynn said, keeping an open mind for making sure that the applicants are going by the rules and regulations that the town has. I ask for your vote, and we'll see you in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's everybody. All right. So first off, we're going to have the school budget committee. There are 2 people running for a 3-year term. One is Elizabeth Landeville, and the other is Pamela Brown, who's to my left. And Pamela, I'll let you go first. Your 2-minute introduction.
Sure. So hi everyone, and thanks to our town officials for giving up an evening tonight. So I'm Pam Brown. I was born in New England, Boston. I grew up in Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and attended URI in Rhode Island. And before moving to New Hampshire, my late husband and I traveled around the U.S. to different areas, Virginia, California, and Alabama, working at universities. I've worked in education for 3 decades, teaching college and high school students. I've served on numerous committees and advised student clubs and organizations, from the student business clubs to Model United Nations. I've watched my students make progress every year, and it's been totally amazing. I've been honored with Golden Apple Awards from my students every few years. I'm also a trained economist with a PhD and have worked for think tanks in Washington, the belly of the beast, on tax policies. My economics background reminds me that taxes are limited and must be used efficiently, never wasted, for our community. My love of New England brought me back to Newton in 2015. Also, my many relatives live in Massachusetts, so that's another reason. And I ran and was elected twice to the school board at that time. Since then, I've moved to an awesome place in Kingston, and I'm now running for the Kingston seat on the school budget committee. While on the school board, I noticed millions were spent, but our math and reading scores languished. Funds weren't being targeted toward well-defined goals. So our board approved a new framework, Career and College Readiness, and requires spending to be tied to measurable student progress now. So I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
So we're going to do kind of a hybrid here, since we only have one of the contested individuals here. So next will be Electra Alessio.
Okay. Hi, most of you know me as Ellie, but you have to vote for me as Electra. That's kind of something. Oh, sorry, let me go. My husband and I moved here in 1971, and my earliest volunteer experience was probably a couple years later, when I worked with the Dollars for Scholars program at the Sanborn High School, which was on double sessions at the time. And we had to pick out high school seniors getting scholarships. And who did I meet there? Linda and Dave Clements. They were high school sweethearts at the time. Since then, I've been a town moderator for 35 years. I've been on the zoning board for 20. I'm just finishing up my term there. I served on the school board for 14 and a half years, a couple different times. And had the opportunity to be a library trustee for 5 years as well. Professionally, my husband and I came here to open up a grocery store. We had a store right here in the center of town where Kingston Pizza is, and then we decided we needed a bigger place, so we kind of built the Carriage Town Plaza and moved the store down there, and then we needed the ad for the store to go out to a larger audience so that we had more customers to support a bigger store, and I started the Carriage Town News, and that will be 40 years old next week, so I'm kind of proud of that. Professionally, I've also volunteered in the business community. I was a charter member of the Kingston Business and Professional Women's Organization, a charter member of the Plasto Area Commerce Exchange. I served 10 years on the Exeter Chamber and was chairman of the board 3 years, excuse me. I think my experience in both the community and professionally brings a lot to the table, and I ask for your vote on March 14th.
Okay, and next will be Glenn Koppelman.
Thank you, Phil, and thank you to the town for putting on this event. Appreciate that. Good evening. My name is Glenn Koppelman, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm seeking your vote for the 3-year term on the Kingston Select Board. I've lived here in the Seacoast area since 1974 when I came here to do my graduate work at UNH, and I've settled here and have been in Kingston since 1985 when I moved to the Old farmstead on Exeter Road, where I am currently and still am. I started a Christmas tree farm there, and that continues to this day. My background, my educational background is in earth science and natural resource management, but my career has been primarily in business management, business development, and economic development financing. The first part of it for 23 years in several companies involved in high technology imaging, and then 13 years with the state of New Hampshire in community development financing. I retired early back in 2014, went into some consulting work, and I work with towns and nonprofits now in the areas of community development and economic development. I've served the town for 38 years on the planning board. The bulk of that time as either chair or vice chair. I see Tammy shaking her head. I agree with you. 17 years as the planning board's rep to the Historic District Commission. I've served on committees, master plan, capital improvement plan, library strategic planning, Envision Kingston 1 and 2, the solar committee, and the New Hampshire Department of Transportation's Route 125 working group. I also serve on 2 nonprofit boards in New Hampshire, on the executive boards of both of those organizations, and deal with finances and budgets and that sort of thing on a regular basis. And should I prevail in the election, my commitment to you is that I will make prudent decisions that are fiscally responsible, legally supportable, and in the best interest of the town of Kingston as a whole. Okay. You know, I practiced it ahead of time, and I said, I can do this in 2 minutes. Okay.
So the first question would be for the school budget committee. How would you go about assessing the budget proposals from the school board and then determine your position on that proposal?
1 minute? Oh, all right. So the school board itself sets the goals, but then they have to fund those goals. So the budget committee looks at the numbers and decides if there's a reasonable amount of money to meet those goals. But there are several supporting documents that guide the school board that they pass, such as the 5-year strategic plan, the capital improvement plan, their annual achievement targets, and the district's policy manual, which I helped to update when I was a school board member, and all of these are to guide the budget. So having that knowledge of those documents is very, really.
30 more seconds.
So knowing those guiding documents will help the budget committee know what should be spent and where it should be spent. Efficient spending is important. There have been some cases where spending has been unproductive, such as an $103,000 a year public relations hire, which thankfully was not approved. And we also need to know external variables such as inflation. And if you look at the spending over time, the rate of inflation over 5 years has matched the growth in per pupil spending. So that explains a lot of it. Thank you.
If it's okay with everybody, since we only have 4 questions and 3 candidates, I just figured we could give them 2 minutes. Does that work for everybody? Sorry, you had to go first.
So I can go a little bit more?
Sure, you got 30 more seconds.
So in terms of spending, they set the goals, but there are lots of function and object numbers that are contained in the budgets, categories such as books and services and speakers and so forth, but we need to make sure there's quality there. That's why our board set up, when I was on the board, a framework for student achievement so that we can have measurable goals and targets and make sure that we're not just, filling in budget and object numbers with dollar numbers. We're actually meeting specific student outcomes and graduation goals. And so I'm really happy that we now have that guiding frameworks. I could go on about inflation, but I'll stop there.
Okay. This is a long one. And really illegible, so bear with me. As a select person, do you think it is important to abide by the will of the people? For example, last year the town voted to hire a code enforcement officer for $60,000 a year, but after advertising the position for $30 an hour or $60,000 a year, a person was hired at $50 an hour or $100,000 a year without advertising the new unauthorized salary so that other more experienced people could have applied. Ms. Alessio?
Might as
Mrs.
well
Alessio?
jump right in. I do believe in abiding by the will of the people, but I also believe that people elect the select board and other members of other committees to do their best into meeting those objectives, whatever they may be. The code enforcement officer was a challenge, as was hiring many of the new department heads that we have. And I've been very proud to be part of the team that's put that together, those group of individuals together. We combined, we had two other people we had hired prior to Mr. Nesbitt, the current person, and it didn't work out. And those of you that are in the labor market today understand that the labor market is demanding higher wages no matter what. It's not as simple as it used to be. So we decided to combine two positions. We combined the code enforcement officer with the building inspector who was planning to retire, and it brought the position up to the $50 an hour. Do I have any regrets? No. I think I've conducted what the people wanted us to do, to hire an efficient, talented, competent individual to manage the growth in this town.
Mr. Copeland?
Okay, well, this is a tough one for me, because I really am big in enforcement of our rules and regulations. The question was, follow the will of the people, I believe.
Abide by.
Abide by the will of the people, yes.
Okay. And the basic answer to that question is yes. Can I address specifically the code enforcement officer? I wasn't part of those discussions, but I can tell you that during the deliberative session process on the warrant article that was put forward, it right from the get-go was supposed to be, as I understood it anyway, a building inspector and a code enforcement officer. So I don't think that changed midway through it all. I believe it had been that way all along. And the voters were asked for a specific amount of money. It was approved, and I understand the difficulties hiring, and I know the select board went through a couple of different iterations of individuals and ended up hiring someone at a much higher level. And should that have gone back to the people? You know, I could sit here and easily take the other side and say yes, and it probably should have. But, you know, those things are challenging, and a board makes decisions as it goes, but, so I do believe in abiding by the will of the people, and in this particular case, because of the significant difference in the amount that was approved by the voters in the warrant article, and the amount that came to be in the end, I believe it should have gone back to the voters.
Okay, School Budget Committee. This is a two-part question, so I'm going to say the second part for the end. What is the vote of a district, or what is the vote, I'm sorry, God, handwriting's lost art. What is the role of a district budget committee member?
Well, the school board sets the goals, and we make sure those goals are efficiently funded, and thankfully, we've defined what the goals are, and I really appreciate all the board's work on that. For a while, we had lots of money spent, but we had poorly defined goals, and we were wondering why our scores remained low when we were spending millions, and $38 million is a lot of money. So the goal is not to set the goals, but to make sure that the funds needed are allocated efficiently, and ideally will surpass the New Hampshire Department of Education targets for skills improvements and proficiency score improvements, because I think they're woefully modest. But if we spend our money efficiently on better teacher training to help our students succeed and improve those outcomes, whatever those scores might be, because there are many metrics for success at Sanborn, that I would say that the money would be well spent. But again, you have to be very careful of certain things that are proposed for spending.
Okay, for the select board, and we'll go with Mr. Koppelman first on this one, to be fair. We only have 2 questions. Are you for or against the planning board question on eliminating gas stations in the Kingston aquifer?
Well, that's an easy one for me, because the short answer is yes. And I was the one who brought it forth to the planning board to discuss and to bring it forth as a proposed warrant article. And the reason being that Kingston sits on one of the most significant aquifers in the region. It's the source of very much of the drinking water in this community. It's the source of potential revenue in the future should the town decide to sell water. It's the source of water that probably will produce municipal water at some point when we will need it. And so protecting that aquifer is critical. It's always a balance between development and the protection of resources, but that resource is very precious. And the Department of Environmental Protection, Department of Environmental Services, at the state level has a recommended guideline for model ordinances for groundwater protection. And in that model ordinance, it recommends not allowing gas stations in groundwater protection areas such as aquifer protection districts. And so I do support those articles, and I believe that the town should support them as well. Thanks.
Ms. Leslie.
This is a subject near and dear to my heart. Of course, I'm in favor of protecting the aquifer zone. I mean, I'd be foolish not to want that, because water is our most precious resource. There's absolutely no question. And I'm thrilled that the town of Kingston has instituted the Municipal Water Act so that we can take advantage of those opportunities of providing municipal water down the road. And it's coming sooner than later. It's not going to be 20 years. We'll be lucky if it's 5 years. However, as a member of the zoning board, my job and our job, members, all the zoning board members, is to look at the town regulations and look at the exception being requested of the zoning board. And the regulation stated that a gas station is permissible with its certain guidelines, so safeguards. And the reason that the townspeople had voted that in, in my opinion, is that we want a blend of conserving our beauty, our natural resources here in Kingston, and still finding means of bringing in commerce to broaden the tax base. Because unless we bring in commerce, we're not going to broaden the tax base, and we're going to have more difficulties meeting those tax obligations to fund the town services. Now, if I had my druthers, I'm not opposed to the legislation to restrict it at this point going forward, but there's nothing in that legislation that talks about monitoring existing gas stations like Mr. Mike's or the Shell, which are probably putting more detriment stuff in the water now since they got approval than not. So I think more work needs to be done in protecting the aquifer from existing businesses that need to be monitored, and there's no regulation to do so.
Okay, last question for School Budget Committee. And I'm going to open this up for everybody, because it's one of those applicable questions, and we're
going to be done too early?
Yeah. I get paid for the whole hour, so.
Your salary is exempt, forget it.
So, Ms. Brown, what do you foresee as your greatest opportunity to make a difference in this role?
Well, I love teaching, but I also love efficiency as an economist, and I have a lot of experience, having been on the school board, to know what our goals are, and I also support all of those goals. But I also know that budget categories do not tell us the real nature and quality of the funded items. When it says books, what kind of books? When it says services, what kinds of services? And so I'm hoping that we can continue to tie spending to student success. Instead of just pointing to inputs, we need to see output. And in the past, that has not been the case, but that has changed. So I think I just want to continue that innovation as a school budget committee member.
Mrs. Lawson.
I'm not sure how to answer that, to be quite honest with you. I think I bring a wealth of experience in many different areas to the table. I think one of the things I've enjoyed, I've been just selected for the last 3 years, and one of the things I've enjoyed about being part of that team is that we all bring something different to the table that as a whole makes us a more viable, productive board. And I think we have been successful in moving the town forward. And I guess I'd like, I sometimes am a little rough around the edges, but I think it also makes people stop and think about what they're saying. Sometimes I want to move forward quickly. I come from the private sector. I'm used to making decisions as a business owner. And I get frustrated at times with the way municipal government works, and it's very cumbersome at times. And so I look at ways to make things more streamlined to be able to move the process forward. So in addition to my varied experiences in town for 50-plus years, I think that ability to reach consensus is a good quality to bring to the table, as well as the ability to work as a group and work efficiently and to the best interests of the town.
And Mr. Kaufman.
So I could probably echo a lot of what Ellie said. I think that if you look at my conduct at meetings, I mean, most of these things are, for many years now, have been online. You can go back and look at YouTube videos that go back for years. And I think that you can get a sense for how I deal with applicants, how I deal with my fellow board members, and the temperament and the sense of being, if you will, that I bring to my board functions. You could ask, well, why are you leaving the planning board, and why are you not staying there? It's a good question. I could have made this decision many years ago. I think we all come to terms with our decisions at our own time, and I felt that this was the right time for me to take my municipal experience here in town and bring it up a notch to the select board. I think that there are a number of things that we as a town could be doing, and just one example, and it's not necessarily a select board function, but one that I would support, and that is trying to find opportunities for additional housing options in town. We have the new accessory dwelling ordinance. We have recently added additional housing opportunities in the commercial zone, and through efforts of mine, bringing the developer who has recently purchased the Sanborn Seminary property, bringing him into the mix and looking at that, not only getting a historic restoration of that building, but bringing additional housing options, rental housing options into town, will expand opportunities for folks living in Kingston. And so, just some examples.
Okay, with that, it'll be 2 minutes of closing statements, starting my left.
So I believe I have the experience to serve as Kingston's eyes and ears on the school budget committee. 75% of your property taxes go to the schools, and I will continue to insist that the funds improve student success and are not just spending. And I just want to mention, I largely avoid Facebook because of censorship concerns, but if you'd like to contact me with any questions, my email is pambrownphd@protonmail.com. Thank you.
I'm asking for your vote on March 14th because I'd like to continue working with my colleagues on the select board. I think I bring a vast variety of experiences, both personally and professionally, and my sense of community and volunteering. I've pretty much been on most committees in the area, and I want to continue to bring that knowledge and experience to the table to enhance and to contribute to the enhancement of quality of life in Kingston, which I love dearly.
Okay, thanks. Again, thank you, Phil, and to the town for doing this tonight. I would appreciate your vote. I'd be honored to have your vote, and really looking for the opportunity to carry the board experience that I have brought to the town for the last 38 years to a higher level. And, you know, the bottom line is, I'm a property owner and a taxpayer like all of you are. And being a good steward of our town funds is pretty much number one when it comes to a select board function. In fact, I wrote down, I'm going to try to do this before I get the red card. I was curious about the function of a select board member, so I looked it up. And of course, it has lots of stuff because it's a state RSA. But the responsibility is to, quote, manage the town's prudential affairs, end quote, and then it goes on with a bunch of other stuff. Prudential affairs, I'm thinking to myself, what does that all mean? So I had to look up prudential. Careful and avoiding risks, judicious, sensible, etc. Okay, so anyway, I thought it was very interesting, and I would look to meet those criteria of a select board member, and appreciate your vote on March 14th. And thanks for coming out tonight.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. This is way better turnout than the deliberative session, so that's good. I'll just work on questions for next year. But thank you again, everybody, and I will hope that the candidates will make themselves available should anyone have any questions for them directly. Thank you.